Hi, welcome class. Welcome to Experimental Psychology Laboratory with Polly. So this is our orientation. Welcome to this course. Okay, so here's the outline of my presentation. Animal space navigation, expectations in this course, grading system, and how to pass. You have already encountered the animal space navigation in the lecture orientation, so I'll just pass through on this part as fast as I can. So this is the interface of the animal space homepage where you can see limited uh, navigation pane on the left part of your page. When you scroll down, you will see these three thumbnails, and on the About Your Instructor thumbnail, if you click that, you will see the following contents about the details about your instructor and my contact information, consultation hours. That's actually updated every term, so you'll just have to check the syllabus and because it varies according to my schedule for the entire term. Okay. To set an appointment with me, you can click this link, or you just go to your browser and type bit.ly/meet with Polly. It will direct you to my Google Calendar where you can set an appointment with me. It will automatically uh, notify my inbox that you want to meet with me, and rest assured that I will appear for as long as it's not less than 24-hour uh reservation of the slot of the appointment. You can also try uh Google Chat, or Google Chat is like a messenger wherein you have to ask permission to get in touch with me, and when I confirmed, you can message me real time, but uh since it works like messenger, uh you will see whether I've seen it, I've read it or not, but I won't respond as soon as you send your message. So I also do not respond to social media platforms if you attempt to do so. So we'll just use my email address, monica.policarpio@dlsu.edu.ph, as the official contact email address for our means to communicate, whether it's email or chat or through synchronous by setting an appointment with me uh for a meeting. Okay. So to set an appointment, again, you just go to the bit.ly/meet with Polly uh, with a 24-hour buffer time. Okay. Because in case that I won't be able to read my inbox the night before, then it's assumed that uh, I can't attend to your reserved slot for the appointment. That's very useful, especially when you are working on your paper. If you need me to verify your progress, which is required of you, then that's a smart move. Okay, so that's how it looks like. But for this term, it will vary per term. My availability will vary per term. So for our naming conventions on our subject heading, if you email me, it should be your course code, the section, and your surnames and name initials if it were uh if you have your group members involved in that thread, and we are supposed to use the same uh email thread for the entire term. If you do not, follow this, I might there's a tendency for me to overlook your work. And if I need to contact you immediately, it will be difficult for me to look for your for your email. And also, I do not want you to use your personal email, because if I were to uh search your name, it won't appear as easily as it would if you use your DLSU email. So again, follow the official assigned contact uh, email addresses. Observe that uh, strictly. Okay, so this is how the module interface looks like, and all you need to do is to browse, check it from time to time if there are any updates, because I'm not sure if you set your canvas to have notifications whenever I uh, do some updates on the modules. I prefer to use modules instead of putting so many tabs in our course panel. Because it's multi-purpose. All you need to do is just to look at the contents of the modules, and everything else like the pages, the quizzes, the assignment submission portal, it can be uh attached or posted on the module section. There's no need to put it on the navigation pane for that purpose. Again, on your home page, although it's also available on your modules, the syllabus, you will see this thumbnail, and if you click that, it will direct you to my Google Drive, particularly to the file of the syllabus. Okay, so some references are there. Our main reference is Field and Whole 2003. Okay, so for the announcements, that's intuitive. Again, for the modules, this is just a sample. Okay, so just a sample for interface. And then for the assignments, you can also look at that. But particularly, I usually do not put assignments there anymore. Okay. So for our grading system, exercises are uh, in particular our laboratory exercises or worksheets. It's mostly by group, maybe about 95% of our required exercises are by group. I think only one out of six or seven is uh, to be submitted individually. And then guided replications, that's an actual experiment, but I'm the one who will be assigning you the experiment that has to be replicated. When you say replicate, it means that we are going to conduct the whole thing again. We are going to conduct the experiment again, and we wish to see or observe whether the results that were the findings that the previous researchers reported are still the same. Okay. And then final experiment, you will have to submit a written output, oral presentation, and a poster presentation. Attendance is checked. That's 5% of your grade. And class participation is 5%. So whenever I have a pre-recorded lecture video like this, I will prepare a quiz wherein it aims to assess what you acquired, what you learned from this pre-recorded lecture video. So it it's for me to ensure that you engaged with the material. So that's only just 5%, but still, that's quite a big deal. Then for the exercises, as I mentioned earlier, I prepared for about 7 worksheets, 7 laboratory exercises, and that is 30% of your grade. So that's quite a big chunk of your paper. That's equally relevant to your guided replications and your final experiment. So do not miss anything, because when you miss one requirement, for instance, in your exercise, if you miss one worksheet, I observe that it drags significant volume on your final grade. So do not overlook that in any way. Okay. Then for the guided replications, we have one for the between subjects design. Since it's simpler relative to within subjects design, that will be our first guided replication. And then the second one would be the within subjects design. As I mentioned earlier, the article that the experiment that you will replicate is predetermined by your instructor. So that's me. And your group must prepare the instruments for the data collection. And the experiment is the same for the entire class on all of the groups. You are supposed to analyze the data, conduct the analysis, and write and interpret the results. I provided a lot of writing materials on your modules. Uh, the the guide the guided the guidelines references, it's up to you on how you're going to consume that or to maximize those materials. We will not conduct a lecture to run through that. So it's up to you on how you will work on maximizing the materials that I provided for you. So for the final experiment, it can either be a between or within subjects assigned, or we have what we call the mixed design, or a combined between and within. Okay, we will cover that in the later part of our course. Each group will look for an experiment that you wish to replicate. It's subject to my approval, so you cannot proceed in every stage of your experiment without my knowledge. Okay. So same thing, you'll prepare your instruments, conduct the data collection, analyze the data and interpret it, and write the findings. Okay? Very, very important part is that you cannot collect your data without my approval. Poster presentation. This is actually a way for you to communicate your final experiment orally. So, and visually through the poster, synthesize your experiment in one A3 size poster. Okay. Then for the syllabus, here are the learning outcomes. Somewhat the same with the experimental psych uh, lecture. However, in the laboratory, it's more hands-on and practical in a way on how you manage your uh, execution of your experiment. You will encounter a lot of nuances conceptually, and how do you apply that in a practical manner in observance of the experimental research methods. Okay, so here's the overview of the topics. It's also available on your syllabus. Okay. So again, the main reference is Field and Hole. how to design and report experiments. Okay, so here are some reminders for this course. Okay, if you have a mediocre output, it means that you it is possible that you fail this course or you get a mediocre grade. So just a reminder, just enough effort is not equal to just enough to have a passing grade. In other words, mere compliance is not enough. Quality output is expected. I also check attendance religiously. So for any missed class or announcements, it should be a responsibility to know what you missed. So for the attendance, I will have uh, a roll call every time we meet. So for online, I'm asking you to open your web camera to verify your identity, whether it's really you who's attending my class. And for the in-person class, we will, well, of course, I'll just conduct a roll call and I will try to associate your names with your faces. Okay. Activities done during class will be submitted only until end of class. So this involves the seat works. So if you're absent, then it means that you can't get a grade on that seat work. How should we communicate? Only through my official email address, monica.policarpi@dlsu.ph only. Do not contact me via my alternate email addresses or through social media platforms. Do not expect me to answer immediately, and as much as possible, I really try to check my emails every day so that I can address your needs as soon as I can. However, uh, my schedule for the term can vary, and it I cannot assure you that I can open my inbox at the end of the day. But again, I will really try my best to address your concerns as soon as possible. But uh, since I'm very limited into addressing concerns via email, I highly encourage you to speak up. After a roll call attendance, I immediately proceed to homeroom in our class. So you wanna please make sure that you have your concerns ready to be raised during our synchronous sessions online or during our face-to-face meeting. We will have that. I am allotting time for that right after the attendance checking. Okay, so here's an important part of the orientation about the grade consultation. So I want to inform you head on that change of grade is only possible according to the following circumstances. Uh, Primarily, if it is due to my error. So, for instance, error in the computation, error in the conversion of the equivalent grade, or typographical error in encoding of grade. So, it's also not accommodated. Here are some examples, but not all circumstances. Okay, so just some scenarios. For example, late submission of previous outputs or final paper, submitting an excuse absence slip for a day prior to or on the day of submission of output, and submitting an endorsement letter from the dean or associate dean for a day prior to or on the day of submission of output. What I'm saying here is that during the grade consultation, you cannot do all of this. Okay. So submitting an excuse letter from you or from your relatives for a day prior to or on the day of submission of output. Because again, For the grade consultation, all I need to do is to verify the computation. And I'm not accommodating any requests to check any more papers. Or if you ask me to whether if I allow special tasks to bump up your grade, I also do not allow that. Okay. Here are some example of arguments and requests that are not accepted. So even if you are a DL this term or the previous term, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. What counts is your performance in class. Okay? Asking to submit extra work. Okay, so for the DL, the only thing that matters there is that you're uh, exempted from the failure due to absence uh, uh, article wherein regular students who are not a DL will be automatically failed, marked as failed if they miss more than 5 meetings. So, although it does not apply to you if you are a DL, however, what matters to me is that it is, for me, it is still considered as class participation. So, I check that it can still be included in your 5% part of your grade. Okay? So, so that's how it works for me. Okay? Asking to update your final output, asking to accept your output that is not uploaded on Canvas. Okay. So if you have technical issues that you're unable to submit it on Canvas, again, that's not my problem. You have to make sure you can see that on your account on the interface. It has a confirmation whether it is successfully uploaded or not. And there are some instances wherein the files uploaded are not the required output, it's something else, then obviously that would equate to a zero grade. When you fail to submit a requirement, it's not 60 or 50%, it's automatically zero. So this zero will pull down all of the other it will pull down the rest of your grades on your other exercises, so it's very crucial uh to make sure that it won't miss any requirement. Okay, especially on the bigger weights, the laboratory exercises, guided replications, and final paper. So if I were to judge it, the participation part would be the list of the priority if you were to miss anything. So the only part wherein you can still buffer the effect of not fulfilling a requirement is only when you miss a requirement on the participation, class participation, which is the 5%. Although that's marginal, that's still relevant when you compute the final grade. So some frequently asked questions: how can I get a higher grade? You cannot get a higher grade beyond what has already been accomplished in the finals week unless there's an error in the process. So if you have questions like why is my groupmate's grade higher than mine, since our requirements are mostly by group. So here's my response to that. Individual grades can come from attendance and participation. One or two exercises may be individually accomplished, and peer evaluations are accommodated as requested by the group, and as long as they all agreed to go through it until finals week only. How did we get a low score from our output? So you have the rubrics, you have the checklists, the guidelines, everything is there. Everything that I'm asking for is already there. Okay. So you must follow them religiously. I do not have to point on them one by one unless you ask me some concern clarifications about it during class. So there are also penalties for plagiarism, late submissions, and not following of instructions. It has its penalty on the total score for a particular requirement. Okay, so for the plagiarism checks, I look at those which has more than 1%, and I will observe whether the chunks in the in your paper were copy pasted the in verbatim. So I will look at whether you have um directly copied and pasted from other references. That's why, in relation to this, when I tell you to submit only what wherein I ask you I ask that only one member of the group will submit it for the group, then you have to strictly follow that because the plagiarism check is in place. So I will have a deduction on your group if you upload your output in multiple copies, because the plagiarism check won't um work if that is the case. Okay, so there will be a penalty for that, for not following that instruction. Okay. So what is wrong with our output? So this is actually a legitimate concern. Okay. So if you attended consultations with me, I could have pointed those out early on. So if you do not follow my advice in a timely manner, quality of your output is not assured. So if you proceed without my close monitoring, without my go signal, you probably have a lot of issues on your output. Okay. So can we submit peer evaluation? Yes, you may. So you may submit that on the day you submit your final output. Include that in the attachments. Okay. So you have to agree as a group if you wish to submit peer evaluation. Another question, can we remove our group mate who is not significantly contributing to the group? Yes, you may. Inform the member for doing so that you plan to remove them on the final paper. If possible, give a warning first. If the member consistently failed to contribute significantly, you're allowed to remove them. However, this decision has to be done 2 weeks before the deadline of a major output. So you have to work on it as soon as you can, because it might also create conflict, uh, more complicated conflict that is difficult to untangle if you do not decide earlier. Okay? Candidates for removal of members' name in group output, uh, they could be there could be a problem on how they communicate. They consistently submit subpar or very poor output. They don't coordinate properly and has no significant contribution to the conceptualization, implementation, and write-up of the paper. Okay? So if their part is menial, then that is not considered to be a significant contribution. But if you still wish to include them in your group output, you can um work on the peer evaluation instead. Not considered significant contributions. For instance, just creating a video. So that's not uh involved with conceptualization, implementation, and write-up of the experiment. Reporting only on the day of the presentation. Let's say they do not have contribution in any way of the study, and you ask them to read a certain part of the presentation, that's not considered to be a significant contribution. Only submitted the paper but did not contribute to the content. Some helpful key points in passing this course. How will you pass? So you need your 100% effort, consistent all throughout the term. Consistency is the key. Quality is the key. Being intentional is the key. Compliance to the requirements does not equate to a passing score. Any class you miss will make it difficult for you to catch up because, again, we have a 3 hour class session. So we're covering a lot every time. So missing one session is detrimental to your final grade. Okay. If you need to, always ask. Okay. Don't assume that I can anticipate all of your needs. So you have to consult with me as much as possible. Or although I can anticipate your needs, I'm not the one who's supposed to set and ask your availability and set an appointment with you to clarify if you have some needs that I cannot address whenever we meet. So you have to initiate, okay? You have to be proactive on this. It's not spoon feeding anymore. Okay? Always keep up with the material. Each new topic builds on previous topics. So it's called contingent. One topic is contingent to another. Study the material several times a week. Frequent interval of 30 minutes for 4 times is more effective than 2 hour duration in one session. So that's backed up by cognitive psych. Not particularly the 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 specific duration interval here, but what I'm referring to is the um consistent uh review of the consistent recall or retrieval of your um course materials. And cramming won't really work in general in terms of long-term high quality output. So pay attention and think during the lecture or any activity that we have, you need to be present. Test yourself regularly. Again, that's also backed up by cognitive psych uh, literature. You quiz yourself. Okay? I expect you to be proactive and you will learn a lot by doing it. Even if you are in a group and someone else is appointed to a particular task, I want you to do it anyway as if you are conducting you're trying to pass the output individually. So that should be your mindset. Utilize the materials very well. So I've already mentioned this. I will not spoon feed you in giving you very minute details of instructions. They're already there. All you need to do is to read them carefully and religiously. One final note on our orientation. Having questions is better than having answers because it leads to more learning. So it also it also follows that having quality questions can lead to quality answers. So quantity and quality matters. So if you consult with me frequently and if you ask really good questions. So okay, it might discourage you to ask me if you think that your question is of low quality, right? But try to fight that, and if you have genuine question, perhaps your classmates can also benefit from that. It's an honest, let's say, honest question that you do not know it, then it can also inform me on what else can I support the class with. I can identify the gaps in knowledge if you raise questions that can be beneficial to all. Another thing is that it although it can be annoying to raise questions that are already announced or that are already discussed thoroughly in class, that can be very annoying, but still I encourage you um to ask anyway. Okay? Um if you want to prevent me from being annoyed, maybe you can ask your classmates. So if no one can answer you, then maybe that's a sign that you should ask. Okay? So I can also assess your level of engagement depending on the quality of your questions. Okay, so I'll see you in our first in-person class. So that's it for this orientation video.